Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. Brian Holly here, President of Darcorp Management Group. Just want to let you know that Darwin and I will be your host tonight, but I also want to stress that, even though Darwin and I are your host tonight, I want to stress that we have a whole team behind us that is supporting us. So from our investor relations department, David and Jeremy, to our controller, Dillard, to our underwriting department, which includes Julian, through our marketing and IT group, which is headed by Mohammed El Mala, down to our Director of Property Management, which is Vicki Skidmore, and really all the way down through the property staff as well. So really, really proud of that team, and just super excited to share a lot of information with you tonight. So again, thank you for joining us this evening for a DGR portfolio update and just continued good news about what I'm going to call distribution. So stick with me, which we affectionately call mailbox money. And we know you have other options for your time and are truly grateful for the opportunity to provide you, the DGRE partners, with these updates. You all know that we're in very unique times and things change daily, but we never take for granted the awesome trust and responsibility that each of you have placed in us with your hard-earned capital. And we will always remember our first rule of thumb for our entire organization, and that is in the best interest of the partners. Every decision that is made in the best interest of the partners. And that is rule number one, pushed down from Darwin, and we all live by that. I'd also like to say, because of the uncertain times, we certainly hope that you and your families are staying safe through these uncertain times. It literally is challenging for everyone on a day-to-day basis, but we hope you're staying safe and that you and your families are doing what you can through the uncertain times. As you can probably hear in my voice, I'm just super excited about the news we're going to be sharing tonight. To be honest with you, I can hardly contain myself. So I'm going to jump right into this and review the agenda, and then we're going to get started. Again, thank you for being here. Really do appreciate it. The first half hour or so, we're going to go through DGRE portfolio performance update. And again, just really good news to share across the board in regards to the portfolio. Yes, these are very challenging times, but I am just super proud of our team, the entire team, and again, all the way, especially the staff at the properties who are continuing to work every day on your behalf. And I think as you see as we go through these slides, you're going to be pleased as well. And while it is never good enough, understand that we're doing the best we can to continue the good work on all of the properties. So we'll go through a slide for each property and just give you a quick update. Then I'd like to share a little bit of good news with you about the portfolio property distributions, or more affectionately called mailbox money. I know that's going to excite all of you. Darwin's then going to jump on and is going to talk about our current investment opportunity, which is Oakview Apartments, and then we'll move on to question and answers. I would encourage all of you, as we go through the presentation, feel free to type in your questions, and we'll answer as many of those as we can at the end of the presentation. If we can't get to a question, we'll follow up with you. And if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, please reach out to us, to any of us, and reach out, and we'll be glad to provide you with any and all information that you need. I'm going to start here with the DGRE portfolio updates, and I'm going to try not to go too quickly through them. But we've got 14 property slides to go through, and I know each one of you are excited about different ones, but I'm excited about all of them. So we're going to start with Amber Vista, and the first thing I just want to point out is that you see at the top, the KPIs, just know basically this is a rolling 4-month look here to kind of give you a really good idea of the trend. And it's really a trend that started when COVID hit us in March, and the trend basically through today, through the end of June. So you're going to see that all of these key performance indicators that I share with you are going to be from March through the end of June. So again, no particular order, but let's start with Amber Vista. As you can see, occupancy remains in the high 90s. Income, you can see we had a high in March and a really good month in April. We took a slight dip in May, but I want to point out that dip, as you can, and you'll see here a little bit later, I'm sharing one other piece of information with you, and that's the rent delinquency at these apartments. But you can see that the income is holding steady in the 110s. We had a slight dip in May, but that is certainly, as you can see in June, back up to almost 109. So we're encouraged by the trend. Expenses, again, holding steady in the high 50s, low 60s. I would point out that June, and you see my note down at the bottom of the screen, we just had an extraordinary amount of plumbing leaks and draining issues in June, which led to increased R&M expenses. So that's why you see a higher than normal June. But again, those are not continuing expenses. We certainly hope. It's just something we need to take care of to protect the asset. So increased expenses in June. But our net operating income, again, you see high 40s, low 50s. And of course, due to the increased expenses in June, the net operating obviously did take a dip in June. I want to point out to you here as we go through these too, I just kind of want to give you an idea what's happening with delinquency so you can understand how it affects some of the other numbers. You can see that the number in March, the 2240 number in delinquency, and this is just rental delinquency, was a manageable number on this property. We'd certainly like to see it lower, but you can see the effect of COVID as people started to get laid off and or people started getting conservative and not paying their rent. You can see that delinquency took a pretty sizable increase in April and then another jump in May, which is a direct correlation to the reduced income in May. And it's still up there, don't get me wrong, we're doing the best we can, but this is a situation where, and I'll speak to it a little bit later too, where really not a lot we can do about the rental delinquency right now due to the eviction moratorium. And I'll touch base on that a little bit later. But that's just a real quick look at Amber Vista. Let's move on to Brookside. Again, you see really high 90s in the occupancy, really good income in March. And again, just as you will see the trend, in April, we took a dip. We're starting to come back in May and even a further increase in June. So we are pleased with the positive trend of that income coming back from our highs that we showed earlier in the year. Expenses, again, really leveled out in the low to mid 130s. Again, a slight increase in June. The only thing I would point out to you is that what's happening across all of the properties, because there are a number of people that have lost their jobs and or are at home now and are not going out, you're just finding, you know, little things. It's not major things, but things that maybe a repair that they might have lived with and didn't notice before, just a small repair. Now they're home looking at their interior unit all day. So that's why you see an increase in June expenses. And that's really a kind of across the board, is that people are now just jumping in and saying, hey, I want to get this fixed. Again, really good net operating numbers, not as good as we'd like them, but holding steady in the 130s from our high in March in the 150s. Same trend here with rent delinquency. March was a really manageable number, and you can see the tremendous increase in rent delinquency in April and May, but now you can see it going down again in June. So again, we're very, very encouraged with that trend. I would also point out too that because Brookside is in Arlington, I want to let you know that Brookside continues to be very proactive in providing information to tenants regarding the rental assistance programs. And I mean, it's literally everything from the federal government to the city of Arlington has a program, to Tarrant County has a program, different charities have a program. And while all of these programs have to be initiated by the tenant, at least the one for the city of Arlington and Tarrant County, payments are made directly to the property. So you can understand why we're really pushing and literally on a continuous basis, making sure that all of our tenants, if they're not keeping up with it, hey, there's rental assistance programs out there. Get signed up. We'll help you sign up. Basically doing everything that we possibly can to get that rent. Move on to Gold Creek. Again, occupancy right in the sweet spot. That's where you want to see a property, right in the mid 90s. And when I say that, you know, if you're consistently in the high 90s, you're probably not charging enough rent. So you need to increase your income by adjusting your rent income as well, or your rent rates as well. Income, again, just point out that we took over this property in very late February. So this really starts in March with just under $275 in income, and has had about a $5,000 increase each month. So April, just under $280 to $282, up to just over $288 in June. So it's you know, pro forma numbers, I was looking at them today. Pro forma numbers are right at $296, and I would tell you that if we could charge late fees, we would be all over that pro forma number. So again, we're very happy with the performance at Gold Creek. Expenses, as you can see, March was our first month, and you don't get all the bills in the first month, but separate April, May, and June, you can see that the expenses have leveled out in the 150s, and we would expect it to stay in that area. Net operating income, again, leveling out in the high 20s, mid 130s in the last 3 months. I will point out that Gold Creek is just a different, it's a different tenant base than we have across most of our portfolio, and most of you know that. So the rent delinquency, again, just pointing out here that it's really not a big issue at this property. You see the number from March and even less in April, a little bit of a raise in May, and then back down in June. Really, the only noteworthy thing I'd tell you right now at Gold Creek is, and this is a good problem to have. If this is the worst problem we're dealing with on the property, this is a good thing. But Gold Creek is working on a new waste collection solution because the current collection process for waste puts citizens in danger due to the way it feeds directly into the street. So the trash truck, as it shows up, is actually picking up from the residential street outside the property and having to pick up a dumpster, dump it, set it down in the street, pick up another one, dump it, set it down in the middle of the street, pick up another one, and repeat that process 3 times. And it's causing some issues with kids on bikes in the neighborhoods. So bottom line is we're going to be looking real soon to build 2 new waste enclosures inside our gated area of Gold Creek so that we can eliminate that problem moving forward. While I'm on Gold Creek, I'd like to just point out a real quick note about Oakview because, you know, as most of you know, it's kind of the sister property. And I think most of you are aware, but if you're not, Darcorp took over management at Oakview as of July 1st. We don't yet own the property. We will be doing that later in the year, but we were able to take over management. So that was a real coup that Darwin negotiated. What it's going to allow us to do is be on that property for roughly 100 days before we actually purchase the property to really learn everything there is to know about that property. Not only that, we know that our Darcorp management is going to improve the property, which is just going to help us on loan terms and get a head start, really a jump on it, so that by the time we take ownership, this thing's going to be flying high. And really, because this property mirrors Gold Creek in many ways, and of course, it's just right down the road. Just super excited about what we're seeing currently at Oakview. We've only been there for 14 days. But we certainly know that based upon what we're seeing and our success at Gold Creek, that it's going to lead to the same successes we're seeing for our partners at Gold Creek, which will certainly, you know, I hope everybody's happy with. Moving on to Riverbend. Again, Riverbend, a little bit, again, different demographic here, so a little bit higher challenge on delinquency, and I'm gonna talk about that for a little bit. But occupancy, again, mid to high 90s occupancy. After our high income mark in March of almost 180, significant dip in April and or May, but you see that starting to trend back up in June now. Expenses, again, mid 70s. I would also again remind you that or just point out that the June expenses are significantly higher. But I just want to point out one thing, and this is going to be hard to believe for you Riverbend partners that are out there, and including myself, but believe it or not, we are now entering year 4 of the Riverbend project. We purchased that property, or acquired that property in March of 2017, so we're past the 3-year mark and well into the 4th year. What happens, which is inevitable on all properties, but because we did such a good job Riverbend has operated with 2 inside the office and 1 outside the office, which is really just unheard of for 160 units. But this was all made possible because almost all of the units were completely rehabbed during the CapEx project upon acquisition. And the fact, if you remember, that we replaced 100% of the AC systems in late 2018. So that kept our repairs, maintenance, and work order issues at a minimum, which is why we were able to do that, which really helped us on a lot of things, obviously, including payroll. But now that we're getting into year 4 and experiencing additional R&M, we will likely be increasing the maintenance staff soon to 2 persons. The additional expense that you see in June here is actually directly attributable to that temp help that was needed in the month of June. But this will allow us to be much more proactive with preventive maintenance. So again, kind of summarizing Riverbend. Let's move on to Silver Creek. Silver Creek, as you can see, low 90s in March and April, increase in May, and an even bigger increase in June on occupancy. outstanding job by the staff there. You can see that again, we hit a high mark in March at just under 295 and took a dip, just as most properties did with the COVID effect in April and May. But you see that tremendous increase in June, where we're over $304,000 in income in June. So really bodes well for the future of Silver Creek. Expenses, as you can see, it's a little differently. We're managing expenses very well there in the low to mid 140s. I would just point out, you see the asterisk there in March. That huge increase in expenses in March was actually a good thing. It was due to a $43,000 settle up on property taxes with the previous owner. But this was due to successful effort by the DGRE group to reduce the 2020 property taxes. But because the previous owner had paid too much in property taxes, we had to settle up with him. So that's why you see the anomaly there in March. But you can see the expenses have leveled out in April, May, and June, with the net operating income just continuing to increase at 110, 143, 149, and up to 156 in June. Really the same issues with rent delinquency here as you see kind of across the board, especially it mirrors Brookside more than any other. A fairly manageable number in March, and then a huge increase in April and May, but it's coming down again in June, which again is directly a direct correlation to the income increase that you see in June. One of the things I want to point out, as you know, we had a pretty extensive rehab project going on at Silver Creek since acquisition. Of course, all the exterior has already been completed, and really for the last several months, we've really just been focusing on interior. But I do want to let everybody know that we've paused that interior CapEx program or upgrades, and we're doing that because during the COVID situation, as people are losing their jobs and are more concerned about income, we just were not getting the rent bumps that we needed out of those improved properties, and our upgraded units. We were spending anywhere from $5,000 to $14,000 depending on the unit on those interior upgrades. But once we realized we're just not getting the rent bump necessary, we started just refocusing our efforts on virtual leasing to the level of our current inventory. But that's great, because it's obviously been successful, because we've been able to increase the income with our current inventory without spending that $5,000 to $14,000 on interior upgrades. And that money is still there sitting on the sideline. And once we get out of the COVID situation and things kind of return back to normal, then we can go back to the rehab project or CapEx upgrade project when we feel like we can get the rent bumps that we need to justify those expenses. 19, again, just a positive news here. Just remind you, I know you can't see all the way back to December, even January, but back in December, this property was at 70% occupied. You can see starting in March, really starting in January, but here on this slide in March, 85, 80, 87, now a little over 92, up to over 96% occupancy in June. Even better news for all of you investors is the income. You can see that has gone from an average of about 98 grand in 2019 to the 122, 117, 121, and then over a whopping 131 in June. So just really, really proud of the efforts made there. Really since the Darcorp takeover and the staff that is down there implementing all the changes that we ask them to make. They've really worked hard. Not only the increasing income, but you can see there's been a real effort to control the expenses. So you see the expenses just continuing to kind of level off, where they were in the mid 60s, and now mid 50s in June, which obviously you know what that does to your net operating income. Just a quick, just a kind of holding steady, and then a good size jump in June, all the way up to over 76,000 for the month of June. I really can't say enough about this staff down in the 1019 in regards to rent delinquency too. Look at those numbers. $500 rent delinquency in March, $1,300 in April, $1,300 in May, $1,600 in June. They are really just on the ball down there, making sure that they're doing everything they can to collect, which obviously is, again, direct correlation to our income. More good news for 1019. The refinance process has begun at 1019. Looking to close the refinance again late August, maybe early September, but that's certainly well within the time frame we expect to be completed with the refinance. And while we don't have final figures right now, I am going to tease you a little bit, but we do anticipate a partner return of capital somewhere in the neighborhood of a 20% range upon closing. So I know that 1019 has been a long time coming for those partners in 1019, but we're just thrilled about the turnaround of that property and what it means for you partners out there. I would also point out, yes.
Also, make sure to point out on that return, that includes holding back $500,000 or $600,000 in lender reserves that they're going to hold on to for another year, so that in 12 months when that's released, we'll have another big distribution, kind of like getting a supplemental, but it's just a refund of the extra amount that we need to capitalize for the refinance.
Yeah, really good part. Thank you. Really good point, Darwin. Thank you. Just again, I'm just super thrilled, and we tell the staff down there literally every day, hey, what a great job you guys are doing. I would also point out that this dramatic increase in performance has been achieved really without any B&B or late fee income, because B&B just came to a complete halt in mid-March when COVID hit, and it's just now starting to pick back up. We are seeing people now booking those B&B units again, but the real turnaround that you've seen here has been without B&B income and without late fee income because of the moratorium. But we're just thrilled. So that just bodes even more good news for 1019 as we move forward. Valley Center. This is really the first time we've had an opportunity to share with you a lot of information about Valley Center, but again, just super thrilled. It's our latest acquisition. As you know, it's the offices of Darwin German Real Estate and Darcourt Management Group. We are now moved into our offices. We'd love for you to come by and see us. Our meeting room is still a little bit under construction with our video and audio equipment. We're going to be thrilled to be able to have our meetings there and just share a lot of good news. But let me go over the numbers real quickly, and then I'll give you some details. Occupancy is figured a little bit differently in an office building, as most of you probably know, but it's determined by the rentable square footage that you're renting versus what's available, as opposed to on an apartment, how many units are occupied. So the occupancy, and that's the reason I put the note on there. Again, mid-80s. Income, again, it's not unusual when you take over a property that it's a little bit difficult that first month to try and collect all the income. So just over 103 in April, jump to 107 in May. You see a huge jump in June. And I'm going to point out on one of my points below here that about 17,000 of that jump in June is directly attributable to 2019 CAM reconciliation charges. And give me a second to go through the numbers and I'll explain what that is. Expenses are now leveling out mid 30s to low 40s as we collect all the bills and make sure that everything is put into the system. Net operating income, again, mid 60s, jumped in the 90s in June. I'll point out delinquency, while it is absolutely higher than we want it to be, we're making every effort to continue with those collections and feel really confident that we're going to collect the vast majority of that money. However, I would point out that you'll see a little note that I've got down below that this delinquency is guaranteed by the seller for the first 6 months of ownership. So kudos to Darwin during the negotiation phase and understanding what was coming with the COVID situation right when we took over this property. So that total delinquency is going to be wiped out there, because once we get to the point where we will reconcile at the end of 6 months, then anything that we could not collect from our tenants, we'll go back to the previous ownership for that. So again, as I said before, go ahead.
So Brian, we haven't collected that $33,000 that's in there so far. We're waiting until the end of the 6 months to go ahead and drag that out of the escrow account that's sitting there waiting for us to do that. So that will be a large amount. I mean, if it's $30,000 now, maybe another $30,000 over the next 3 months. So we might have $60,000 of additional revenue come in from that rent guarantee. And really that's also utilized to save the current tenants, because even though they're not paying, we're using that to negotiate with them for to get them in a better position so that they can pay and can stay there. So this is not just a rent guarantee on people that moved out. It's a rent guarantee that are people that are there and are existing, but we're using that as a benefit so that they don't, if they're struggling as a business, they don't have to pay the rent during these 6 months, 3 to 6 months, but it gets them put into a position to get past all the COVID crap, and then we get reimbursed for that same amount, and we have happier tenants there for helping us get them through this rough time with their businesses being closed.
See, just now you guys can see why I'm so excited about this. One other point I would highlight too in regards to what Darwin is saying, the reason we're waiting to the end of 6 months is because, you know, for example, the people that didn't pay in April, they might pay in May. So it becomes a very cumbersome process if I go back and claw that back from the escrow account because they didn't pay in April, then they pay in May, and we got to turn around and give that money back to the escrow account in May. So as long as we're in a good cash position, which we are, then we're going to wait till the end of 6 months and do one reconciliation. If we need to, we can certainly do it earlier. We can do it on a monthly basis if we want to, but I feel like we'll probably do that one time at the end of 6 months. So thanks for that, Darwin. One other update is about 85% of the CapEx projects have been completed at Valley Center. And I would also add it's being completed significantly under budget. So really thrilled. And again, as you've heard me say several times about Valley Center, come and see us. Somebody's there every day. Come and see us. Let us show you around. Really proud of what's going on there. The last main project to be done is the lobby remodel. We had to get all the other stuff done first, but that's going to be commencing here within the next week to 10 days. And it's just going to make a total huge difference in the appearance of that building. So come see us if you get a chance. Let me know you're coming. I'd love to show you around. Move on to Villa Creek. Again, just more good news to share. As you see, the occupancy is holding steady. Income holding steady in the mid 150s, but we do see an increase in June, and that is directly attributable. I am happy to announce that after a year of 2 buildings being totally down because of tornado coming through and wiping out, that we are back in business. Villa Creek tornado rebuild is now complete. We have received all our final inspections and certificate of occupancy for the 2 buildings, and 5 of those 14 units are already occupied, 2 more are leased. So we're scrambling to get those 14 units that were down in those 2 buildings, scrambling to get those leased up as soon as we can. That's why you saw a little bit of an increase in the income in June. I would also remind you too that one of the things that we were able to do here, which is just again great news for the partners here, we were able to redesign one of the buildings, and where the boiler room was upstairs, we moved it downstairs into an area that was not being used for anything. And we were able to create a 1-bedroom, about 700 and some odd square feet, 1-bedroom unit. Now that has not been completed yet. It is just being started on construction. Want to get the rest of the units back up and running so we get them leased and occupied. But that is just going to be an extra unit now. So it's no longer going to be 160 units at Villa Creek. It's going to be 161 units. And all of you know what that does with our income. It's another 900 and some odd per month for that unit that we didn't even have before. Tomorrow, actually, I'm sitting down with the insurance company to work out and reconcile all the insurance proceeds for the final settlement. So again, just really good things on the horizon for Villa Creek, operating very, very well despite being in the COVID situation and despite being in a tornado rebuild, but better things on the horizon for Villa Creek.
Hey, Brian, how much are we going to get from lost rents from that insurance claim? Because that just goes right into our pockets. There's no expense to offset on that.
Yeah, it'll be roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000.
So that's just another $50,000 or $60,000 bump into the partners' pockets.
Yeah,
Good.
We've settled with them the first 6 months or first 7 months of the rebuild already, and we've currently filed the claim for the second 5 months. So good point. Moving on to HALE NANI. Again, mid-90s occupancy. I will, just point out here that we are seeing some negative trends for HALE NANI due to the COVID situation on Maui because it's isolated on an island. The tourism industry has practically been halted for the past 3 months. And I know each of you that get our monthly updates with the financials have already received this information, but it's obviously creating a significant impact on jobs. However, it is remaining steady. I mean, the income, yes, is not where we want it to be, but it's approaching the 20,000 level with a slight dip in May and June. Expenses, though, we're just watching expenses very, very carefully and trying to keep that net income in the mid-teens range. Obviously, it was a drop in June with the decreased income and the increased expenses. And again, it's just it is what it is. We have to deal with it. It is a unique situation simply because of how isolated it is and how dependent upon the tourism industry they are. But we'll continue to operate and do the best we can there. which leads me to Kainani, which is really the same story, just a little bit bigger property, 16 units instead of 10 units, of course. You see the occupancy holding steady, income again taking drops in subsequent months. Expenses, however, we're managing very well and making sure the expenses are reduced as the income goes down, so that the net income again can stay in the mid to high teens. And again, same note for Kainani as we have, since it's right next door. What affects Halenani also affects Kainani, and again, just the negative trends, and obviously hoping for this COVID situation to provide some relief here, so that the tourism industry, it's not only the tourism industry, for those of you who are following Hawaii, it's basically the islands have just kind of shut down to any incoming traffic unless it's absolutely necessary. So obviously having effect, but we're doing the best we can to maintain those performance at those properties. Southwest, occupancy again, mid to high 90s. Income you see from 55, 65, 67 back down to 55 in June. Expenses in the mid 20s, even into the high 130s. I'm sorry, the high 30s back in March. But again, very careful job by the staff in managing the expenses in June to get those down, so that we could keep that net operating income, as you see, somewhere in the high 30s to low 40s. One of the things I want to point out about Southwest is just, and this really goes for the DARCORP, the DGRE portfolio as a whole. But Southwest continues to have a significant number of tenants that refuse to pay rent, knowing they cannot be evicted. So I want to take this opportunity to kind of give you an update on the eviction moratorium. That moratorium expires on July 25th, at which point we can then provide those tenants who have not paid a 30-day notice to vacate. If a tenant has not vacated in that 30 days, we can then start the eviction process. So with that process in place, because of the CARES Act and the different municipal legislation done by different judges across the North Texas area, which some overlap, some do not, but it's a job keeping up with all of those. But that, along with the courts backed up, likely means late September, mid to late September, before we can get those people out. But the good news is we're remaining steady on the performance, and it just bodes well for when we'll be able to get those non-payers out and get some people in there to pay rent on those units. 2405 at Park Row. Before I start here, I just want to say a huge congratulations to Reggie Betos. Reggie, if you don't know, is a co-sponsor of this program. I think many of you, if not all of you, have met Reggie. And he and his team have cracked the 90% occupancy number, and he's so proud of that, and I'm proud of him and his efforts as well. And talking to Reggie anticipates a partner distribution in the very near future, so another success for DGRE partners. Thanks to Reggie and his team. Christine is the manager over there. Thank you for your efforts. But as you can see, occupancy from 82 in March up to 92 in June. So again, this is during the COVID situation. So just again, great efforts on their part. Income just low to mid 30s. Expenses high teens, and just an outstanding job in June managing the expenses down in the 10 range, where you see the operating income again in the mid to high teens and even almost mid 20s in June. So again, Reggie and his group, just an outstanding job. And I want to point out too, again, rent delinquency here, you can see all of this performance is despite the rent delinquency. Manageable, fairly manageable number in March, but with the COVID situation and direct impact on jobs, you see the increase in April, huge increase in May, and huge increase in June, but they did not let that affect them, and the income and expenses were held steady so that the NOI was still very positive. So again, great success for Reggie and his team, and great success for DGRE partners. Crossings, again, just a real steady performer. Those who've been in Crossings know what we're talking about. Occupancy, again, almost butting up against 100%. So we're going to have some discussions about raising the rents there, as I said before. Income, high 90s in the low 100s. Expenses, again, high in March, but kind of leveling out in your April, May, and June timeframe, low 40s. Net operating income continuing to climb, 38, 49, 34, up to 54 in June. Don't really have much information to share about Crossings, and that's actually a good thing to have, because if we don't have any issues, it's just keep plugging along and operating well by the staff that's managing that. Just a really solid performer for the DGRE partners in Crossings. RIDGMAR, again, continues to make improvements. You can see, again, occupancy in March from 82 up to 92 in June. Steady income increase from 37 in March, 41 in April, 45 in May, and 45 in June. Really great job in managing the expenses down in the low 20s and even high teens in June. And I want you to know that you kind of see a trend here. That's not an accident. We are making concerted efforts on a daily basis to control the expenses everywhere we can, because that's a direct reflection of, obviously, of the net operating income. So mid-teens in March and April to low to mid-20s in May and June. RIDGMAR continues with property improvement projects, parking lot repairs, tree trimming, and other landscape projects, and landing repairs where needed. And Darwin, I would ask you just to jump in here real quick and give them some good news about what's happening with the potential sale of RIDGMAR.
Okay, we just got our listing presentation and listing agreement and ready to sign that. We're looking at a sales price of $4.8 to $5 million. So that will give between 15 and 18% per year average return overall to the partners that are in RIDGMAR. And it's been a struggle. It's been a bit of a challenge with all of the repairs that we've had to do on there, but still make 15% per year average return. I think is a good win.
I'll sign up for that all day long.
Yep. And so that listing should be out, I would guess, within the next week to 10 days. We're just signing that agreement now, and they'll have to put together all their information before they roll it out.
Okay. RIDGMAR, I believe, is the last property slide I have to share with you. And again, just to remind you, put in your questions. But what does all that mean? Why, Brian, why are you so positive? Obviously, you can see the numbers that I'm sharing with you on each of the slides for the property. We're really excited. And again, we know that without the COVID situation, we would be in even better position, but we're very proud of what we're doing, and specifically what the staff is doing at each property to maintain these assets and the performance of these properties for our DGRE partners. But what does this mean for the Darwin German real estate portfolio distributions, or what we affectionately call, or what Darwin calls, mailbox money? Well, let's see what that means. I want to see if any of you recognize my friend here. That's actually Darwin driving the mail truck. And that's actually Darwin throwing your distribution checks or your mailbox money in your mailbox. So say hello to Darwin there. And real quickly, I'm going to show you that since we've resumed our distributions from the properties, you know, we took a brief respite there when COVID first hit, just to see where things were going to go and protect the assets. But you can see the list of properties that started back with distributions and last month, and even moving into this month, and we certainly anticipate that those will continue. So you've got Amber Vista, Crossings, HALE, NANI, Gold Creek. And I just want to add one thing about Gold Creek here real quickly. The distribution that you got just 2-3 weeks ago from Gold Creek was a 2-month distribution. So that was a whopping $80,000 distribution there from the property. But please understand that that was for 2 months. So we will continue the distribution, but now it will be a monthly distribution, which will be right at half of that. So just wanted to point that out for Gold Creek, which again is just why we're super excited about Oakview, because we see similar results after taking over Oakview, and we know that's going to be the same type of success. Kainani sending distributions. Riverbend continues to send distributions. Really good Valley Center distribution. The first one went out after just 2.5 months of running the property. So really proud of that. And Villa Creek. And of course, there's no reason that won't continue now with the buildings back online and everything going smoothly. So again, say hello to Darwin, our mail driver, and thank him for delivering those checks. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the rest of the properties can achieve the same success. So having said that, I'm going to turn this over to Darwin here real quickly and talk about our next great opportunity, which is Oakview Apartments.
All right, we just rolled that out just a short time ago, and we've already got over $3 million in commitments. We're getting loan quotes. We're actually getting loan quotes under 3% interest with 5 years interest only. Our total raise is over $10 million, but we are looking at JV partners and private equity that if we went that route, it would jump our projected returns from 16.2 to well over 20%. And with the way debt is out there, I think that would be a great loan to have. It's right on the freeway. It's a great investment, and built in 2018. So just like Gold Creek, start having distributions just right away. And as Brian mentioned, we took over management of this already. So because of that, we can actually get the whole house in order before we take it over, so that that'll make even a smoother transition. So if you want to be involved and get in a great deal, this is for accredited investors only. And we have projected 16.2% return right now. However, depending on what we do with debt and equity, that could be a projected return well over 20% per year average return. And remember, this has a huge tax benefit. Year one, we're going to do cost segregation and use bonus depreciation. This all depends on exactly how the CPA writes that out. There's a whole lot of rules on how they do that, but there is the possibility of a 1-to-1 loss year one for what you invest. So for example, if you invest $100,000, there's the possibility that you have a $100,000 tax loss to carry forward on this property or to apply to other passive income that you have. So $100,000 tax write-off would, if you're in a 30% tax bracket per se, then that would be just like getting $30,000 cash back at the end of the year because of that bonus depreciation. So great property, great long-term potential, great returns, great tax benefits. And not only that, we are going to start coordinating doing property tours on that property for interested investors. We'll set up a date and time, so watch your email, so that we can have an open house for potential investors, and we can be out there and give you a tour of the property, show you what it looks like, have documents ready for you to invest right there. So make sure to join us for that. So that will be a great deal. One more thing. Now, that is for accredited investors only. I'm going to tease some of you. For the unaccredited, which just means, that doesn't mean anything bad. It's just that the accredited investors only on this deal, I'm doing one for unaccredited only. Unaccredited investors only. We've got a property that we're negotiating a contract on. I told you one would be coming. So make sure to reach out. Those unaccredited people, reach out to David and Brian or Ben or Garrett and tell them, hey, I'm unaccredited. I want the information on the new one that's just for us. So that one's going to be a fun one, and that one's coming out soon as well. So we look forward to having you as partners, and love to have you on either one of these. And we'll set you up with tours and talk to our investor relations people, and they'll get you hooked up. So that's all I had on those two.
Okay, thank you, Darwin. We're going to move on to question and answers, and we know there's probably a lot of them out there. So, bottom line is, if you have questions, please ask them, type them in, and we will. I'll read them off to Darwin, and/or I'll give you an answer one way or the other. So let me see what we got out there. Okay. Lots of questions this evening, so that's good news. What do we see going on? What's the status of Brookside and Silver Creek in regards to distributions? And Dora, I'll let you handle that, or I'll take it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that we are in much better shape on both of those properties. In fact, let me just say this, that I feel confident in saying that had we not had a small glitch with a lawsuit that had been filed, again, doesn't have anything to do directly with the property, but there was a lawsuit that was filed, and we had to settle that lawsuit, which was actually just finalized today, but that took some of the cash out of our win there. So we were holding that back. Otherwise, Brookside would have made a distribution this month. So I look forward to distributions picking back up at Brookside next month. In regards to Silver Creek, a little bit tougher nut to crack, but it's as you saw from the numbers on the slide, we are now over the 300,000 income and controlling expenses really well. It is easy for me to say that had this been managed the way it's currently being managed, certainly there would have been a distribution by now. That's on us. I'm not blaming anyone else, that we're responsible for that, but we are very pleased with the way it's going right now. Another piece of good news I'll share with Silver Creek, in that we were really concerned when the property tax notifications came out. But thanks to Brian Johnson, you know, he's a great part of our team, and him working with our local property tax fighters is what I call them. We got good news just a couple of days ago, and very, very low increase on property taxes. We were very concerned that that was going to take a significant hit, which would just go directly to the bottom line. But now we know that that's probably not going to increase more than about $3,500, $3,600 for the year for next year. So that is great news. And if we can continue to, you know, again, this improvement that you've seen at Silver Creek is including what's going on with COVID. It's also having stopped the CapEx agreement, the CapEx plan, which we're getting good rent bumps out of, and which is why we stopped that. So I would just tell you, yes, I'm an eternal optimist, but I would tell you that everything portends very well there. We did not get the hit we wanted on on the property tax increase. Income is way up at that property. Expenses are down. We've got a hold of it. And if we can get the eviction moratorium, you saw the rent delinquency numbers, we can get that under control. If we could have rent control, if we could have the rent delinquency under control right now, those numbers would be in the 315 level right now on your income. So that's where we need to be to get to the distribution level. So again, we're excited about what may be coming for that. So appreciate the question. Let me back up here a little bit. I don't want to miss anybody's question. We got, oh, Jeremy Schatz, hola from Mexico. So thanks, Jeremy, for joining us. After the refi is done on 1019, will monthly distributions start? Okay, as Darwin already pointed out, and we showed in the slide, we're expecting about a 20% return of your original capital back after the refinance, and that's even after our lender reserves are put back. But we certainly do anticipate now, with the way the property is running and our debt, permanent debt, and being managed properly, that yes, we should see distribution starting at 1019.
Hey, you know, I'm sorry, didn't we do a distribution this month on that?
No, not at 1019.
Okay, I get confused myself.
It's okay. There's so many distributions going out. I understand you're getting confused.
And not only that, when we refinance, our payment will actually go down. Just
Correct.
So you know, so our payment doesn't go up. We get to put a bunch of money in our pocket, and our payment goes down, which will also help on distributions. So that deal is turned into the home run I thought it was going to be. That's awesome.
Okay. One question, what's the overall ROI for RIDGMAR? I think we addressed that. You're looking in the 15 to 18% range. We don't have the final numbers there yet, but I think, as I said, I'd sign up for that all day. Yes, it's been a little bit of a struggle, as Darwin said, but rule number one is do what's right for the investor. We addressed Silver Creek. Let me see here what else we got. I want to answer the same questions. We talked about Brookside. We've handled that. Does the 16% annual return on Oakview include any projected sale proceeds?
Yes, that absolutely does. That includes the sale proceeds. That's over the whole life of the investment, which we have projected out at 5 years right now. In some properties, it goes 2 years. Some properties, it'll go 10 years. But we put an end date of that for projections at 5 years, and that 16% does include the sales proceeds. And but if you look at it, it also has great cash flow from day one. I want to say it was 7 or 8% year for the first year's cash flow to the partner. And when we get that quote of 16.2, that's after anything the sponsor gets, everything. That's net to you before taxes or any tax benefits.
Year one's actually 9%.
Okay,
yep.
Year one is 9%.
And it stair steps. It stair steps to 12 over the 5-year hold.
Thank you. Thank you. That was David jumping in. Thank you, David. I think David's in Colorado. We have people all over the place.
You can work from anywhere.
We have a question. Let me see if I just need to get the whole question here. What is your minimum investment on the upcoming properties? I would just tell you, to be honest with you, without going into too much detail here, please reach out to David and or Jeremy. Reach out to any of us, and we'll be glad to talk to you about Oakview and the one that Darwin teased for you tonight as well. So give us a call and let us talk to you about what those minimums are and who can participate. We want to make it so that all of you can get in. Okay, do you anticipate monthly distributions from 1019 after the refi? The answer to that is yes. Again, as Darwin pointed out, property's doing much better on performance, and our mortgage payment is actually our debt service actually go down. So yes, that's the answer there. What are the details on the lawsuit at Brookside? Again, just real quickly without going too much detail. There was some work that a vendor claimed was done at that property. It was not under Darcourt management. It was under previous third-party management way back in the spring of 2019. However, they waited until the Darcourt takeover to submit the lawsuit and said, hey, we haven't been paid for these, the work that's been done. And it's been really about a 6-month process, to be honest with you, going back and checking every invoice and just making sure we knew what was going on. We're happy to say that we settled, we settled somewhere about 60 cents on the dollar from what the lawsuit was asking for, and that was finalized today. So that was not only on Brookside, to be honest with you. That same vendor had some from Silver Creek and had some from Las Lomas as well. But again, we've taken care of all of that and have a guarantee as part of our settlement that they can't come back to us on any additional properties. That's it. Been settled, get out of here. We're good to go. If somebody's asking a question, what is the news on the extension of the eviction moratorium? Heard that the House was going to vote on a new bill. I can give you an update because I just sat in with some lawyers this morning, as well as our director of property management, Vicki Skidmore, and our in-house attorney, Brian Johnson. At this point, there is a fairly good likelihood that new legislation is currently under what's called the HEROES Act is going to come out. Of course, nobody knows what it's going to contain. It does specifically call for an extension to the eviction moratorium. However, one of the things that it does, which I'm thrilled with, is that it claims that if you as a tenant are if you want to be protected under that eviction moratorium, then you have to sign up your property and your rent payments are going to go direct. We have to verify that, and then your rent payments are going to go directly to the landlord. So it's better than the current eviction moratorium. Now, we don't want an eviction moratorium, don't get me wrong. It's just a hassle. It's just, it rewards people for bad behavior. We don't want it, but at least this is a better version. We really have no way of knowing, and your guess is as good as mine. At this point, it's a coin flip on what's going on. We hear the rumors every day, but we just don't know, to be honest with you. But as soon as we find out additional information, I can assure you of this: we are proceeding headstrong with it as if there was no eviction moratorium extension coming. We're assuming that the eviction moratorium is up on July 25th. We have all our documents in order, all our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and we're ready to give that 30-day notice, which will happen on July 26th. And then again, another notice if they don't pay in August, and then do what we have to do in late August, early September through the court processes. We're moving full, fast, and furious, assuming that's going to happen. If something changes, we'll adjust our strategy accordingly. For Oakview, how confident are you in your property tax projections of 85% of purchase price? Given aggressive tax assessment practices in DFW area, how confident are you, Darwin? Darwin, you hear me?
I'm sorry, I had pressed mute. Yes, we've already talked to our tax fighter, as you put it, and that's where we think it's going to pan out as far as what our property tax is going to be. Now, what's funny is Tarrant County has actually backed off being as aggressive. Where they're super aggressive now is the C quality properties in Dallas. So that's the ones that are being very aggressive. So we're pretty good on where we think we're going to be on Oakview.
Okay, one point of clarification I have here, because somebody followed up with a question: can we start eviction process early in August if the delinquent folks don't pay August rent versus waiting the 30 days after the moratorium ends? And I'm sad to say that the answer to that is no. That moratorium applies to them regardless if they don't pay their August. I know exactly where you're going, because our strategy was to file in August if they didn't pay August, but that eviction moratorium applies to them for that full 30 days that you gave notice. So we cannot supersede that.
We were going to try that. That was a little trick up our sleeve, but that one died.
Several people, David, this is more for you. Several people saying, hey, I'm interested in Oakview. Send us a PPM. I would tell you, I won't speak for David, but well, yeah, I will. I'll speak in. David, jump in anytime. But the PPM is actually in IMS. If you have an account in IMS, you can go see the PPM. We have it available. And if you don't have an IMS account, just reach out to David, Garrett, or Ben, and they'll be glad to get that set up for you. But absolutely, remember, this is a 506C, so we'll be absolutely thrilled to send you the PPM, and you can share it all you want. Okay, let me go through here. Great questions. Actually, I think that's all of it, other than, last question here, Darwin, I'll let you handle it, and then I'll jump in if you want me to, but it's just, the question basically summarizing is how are you able to maintain positive property performance with what's going on with COVID, what's going on with increased rent delinquency? It goes on with several different points of that question. And so if you want to jump in, or I'll take it, let me take it first, and and then you can add on. I'll just tell you that it's very, very diligent management. And you guys hear me talking about Vicki Skidmore, you've met her, and it's literally just consistent and continuous conversations with the managers about what we needed to be doing. It's continuous and constant communication to our tenants. And just, as one of our managers, I won't say her name, but one of our managers, you know what? You just got to hound them. You got to call them every day. You got to do what you got to do. But, bottom line is that, yes, even though we have seen a sharp rise in delinquency, it has not affected our income. And in most cases, our income is actually even up. So, Darwin, you want to jump in on any of that?
Yes, you need to plug Mo, and what a great job he's doing on the marketing to get traffic there.
Yes, I am sorry. You guys hear me talk about Mohammed. Mo's on the webinar with us, but one of the things that we're really doing a really good job of, and again, Mo's responsible for this, specifically at 1019. It's just a perfect example of what you can do with the correct marketing. But we have some specific programs that we can use through social media where we can actually drop pins in a specific area right on top of our competition. And we can tell those tenants that are living in our competition why we're so much better. It used to be in the old days, you had to blanket an entire area with the ads, but now we can be so much more productive with our ads because we know that for every dollar that we're spending on those ads and that Mo is putting out there with the correct verbiage and pictures and exciting information about the properties, that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck, because it's hitting, we're not getting 30% of the people that don't live in apartments because we had to cover a 15-mile wide area. We're getting people that we know live in an apartment and we know are living in apartments that are comparable to our own. So again, thanks, Darwin, for that reminder, and great job, Mo. I think that's it. Darwin, I'll let you close here. I don't see any more questions.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit more. Because of taking these properties over back in-house, we know we have the best management company around, and nobody watches your money like you do. And so the real key to this is having a team that cares. And between Brian Hawley and Vicki Skidmore really pushing on the management side, setting up virtual leasing and dealing with the staff and to help our payroll protection program, which hasn't even, that money hasn't even kicked into the accounts yet either. We didn't talk about that. Between everything they're doing on the property management side, between Brian and Vicki, they are absolutely killing it. Mo is doing a great job. He is marketing for all the properties. He did a huge amount for Silver Creek. That's also why we had a big jump in occupancy there as well as 1019. So between the marketing, the targeted marketing, mainly through Facebook, through proper management and supervision, because the on-site staff previously did not have any support from the previous management company, that now that we're doing things the way that they're supposed to be being done, now that we have our own management company and they're doing things the correct way, then you'll see trends going up like this. And we are fighting for every dollar and fighting every day to provide good customer service, to keep on leasing, to take care of the residents. And really, it's like an inverted pyramid. If you're not supporting the resident, you need to support the person supporting the resident. So if you take a corporate flow chart and flip it upside down, that's really how it is. So we're all here to support the on-site staff so that they can do their job as well as they can, which shows a bottom line good return for all of the partners. And we're very proud of everybody on the team. And thank you, everybody, for being on the call. And look forward to hearing from you and taking tours out at Oakview. So thank you so much. On your screen, you can talk to David or Jeremy. Reach out to them to get more information.
Thank you, everyone. David, you want to say anything in regards to anything at all?
No, just know that we have the PPM ready to go for Oakview. If you haven't had an IMS account set up, just let me know and we'll get you set up. That's all you need.
Okay. Thanks for everybody being on the call. We know you have other options. We appreciate you spending an hour with us tonight and sharing all the positive news. And we look forward to continued success with DGRE and all of our partners. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.